You know that feeling,
Yeah.
that constant kind of low-level exhaustion from trying to, well, manage how other people see you or what they say, or even just how they act around you.
Oh, absolutely. That kind of invisible work we do, trying to control things we actually can't. It's draining.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, it really seems to actually work in the long run either. You just end up feeling, well, worn out.
Yeah, it's a very human thing to want that control, but peace, that seems to lie elsewhere.
Exactly. Which is why today we're really going to get into something that feels pretty revolutionary, honestly. It's called the let them theory.
Hmm.
And it's not just some fleeting trend. It started like viral on social media, but now it's a whole book published just this year, 2024. It's promising this radical path to, well, emotional freedom.
It is fascinating, isn't it, how a phrase that simple let them has just exploded. It clearly tapped into something like a real collective need.
Totally. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack this idea, let them, what's really behind it, how does it work, why are so many people finding it, transformative?
Right. And also look at the edges, the nuances. Because, let's be real, no single idea is the answer to everything, is it?
Definitely not. So, okay, let's start right at the core. The central idea, let them. What does it actually mean in practice?
Well, the premise is surprisingly direct. It's literally let them talk about you, let them leave, let them misunderstand you, things like that.
Okay.
The real point, the shift, is realizing that your inner peace doesn't come from getting others to act how you want. It comes from mastering your own responses, your internal state.
So it's about where you put your energy.
Exactly. Think about it. Someone's gossiping. The theory says, okay, let them. You weren't invited somewhere? Let them. Someone critiques your life choices? Uh-huh. Let them.
It feels almost counterintuitive, though. Like you're just giving up.
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? By letting go of trying to control them, you actually get your own power back. You save your mental energy, your emotional bandwidth. It's not passive resignation. It's more like strategic redirection of
A
focus.
strategic redirection. I like that. It sounds almost like a kind of mental self-defense, letting the negativity just flow past you instead of fighting it.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. And, it's not entirely new in concept if you look at philosophy or certain
Right, I
traditions.
was thinking that. It feels like it echoes some older wisdom.
It really does. You can definitely see parallels with, say, Stoic philosophy,
Sure.
focusing only on your inner world, your judgments and responses, because that's all you truly control.
Not external events or other people.
Precisely. And it also resonates with Buddhist ideas of non-attachment, the idea that clinging to expectations to how things should be is a source of suffering. Letting go frees you.
So both ancient traditions and this very modern theory are pointing towards the same thing. Shift your focus inward. Stop trying to manage the outside world.
That's the essence of it. It really presents itself as a path for you, the listener, to find that peace and confidence by, well, disengaging from that exhausting game of external control.
Okay, so that's the core principle. Now, the book itself, how does it take this powerful, maybe slightly abstract idea and make it, usable for people day to day?
Yeah, the book is very intentionally designed for that. It's pretty short, around 200 pages, and it's broken down into these really digestible chapters. Like a lot of them are less than 5 pages long.
Oh, wow. Quick hits then.
Very much so. And each chapter tends to focus on a specific, really relatable scenario, like a situation where you could actually apply the let them principle.
So we're talking stuff that everyone deals with.
Exactly. Things like uh, navigating tricky family dynamics, dealing with maybe a toxic friendship or relationship, workplace gossip, which we mentioned, or even just that feeling of social rejection. It covers quite a wide range.
And what's the feel of the writing? Is it academic,
Hmm.
preachy?
No, not at all. It's very conversational, empathetic, but also quite punchy and direct. You can tell it's aimed at a broad audience. Maybe millennials figuring out dating, professionals dealing with boundaries, pretty much anyone feeling overwhelmed.
Right. It sounds like it has that motivational energy, maybe like a Brene Brown or Mel Robbins.
Yeah, there's definitely that vibe, but maybe with a slightly more informal kind of viral edge,
Like,
which makes sense given where it came from social media.
okay.
And it's not just talk either. It's packed with these like memorable phrases of, the kind you might see on Instagram, but it also includes reflection prompts, actual inner work exercises to help you integrate the ideas.
So it tries to bridge that gap between a catchy idea and actual change.
That seems to be the goal. To make it a quick read, yeah, but one that hopefully sticks with you and influences how you react long after you finish it.
So that brings us to why this thing has struck such a chord.
Yeah.
What's the magic ingredient? Why now? Why this theory?
Well, I think a huge part of it is just how universal it feels. It's not niche advice, right? It seems to apply everywhere. Romantic stuff, family, work, online interactions. That broad relatability is massive.
So anyone can kind of see themselves in it.
Pretty much. And another key thing is that it feels actionable. It's not just saying change your mindset. It gives you like concrete things to think about, journaling prompts, examples.
Right.
It guides you on how to shift from reacting instantly to, well, observing first.
Making the abstract feel practical.
Right. And there's a definite mental well-being undercurrent, too. Even though it's not a clinical psychology book,
Sure.
it clearly supports resilience. It's about setting emotional boundaries, helping regulate your nervous system when you feel attacked or criticized, basically calming yourself down.
Which feels incredibly relevant today.
Well, totally. Think about our culture. We're expected to be hyper-responsive, always explaining ourselves, always on. In that context, saying, let them, that feels almost radical, like a real act of self-preservation.
Yeah, reclaiming your energy.
Exactly. So for you listening, it might spark those aha moments, realizing maybe you've been carrying stuff that wasn't yours to carry. It gives you a tool, especially if you feel constantly swamped by what everyone else thinks or needs.
Okay, but like we said, no theory is perfect. It sounds incredibly empowering. But I can also hear someone thinking, wait, am I just supposed to let everything go? What about injustice? What about situations where I need to act?
That is such an important point and a valid critique. The simplicity is powerful, but it can risk oversimplification.
How so?
Well, some situations just don't lend themselves to passive detachment. Think about systemic issues like discrimination or oppression, or relationships where there's genuine harm or trauma involved. Letting them in those contexts isn't just unhelpful, it could be actively harmful or unsafe.
Right, that's a critical distinction. It's not a free pass to just check out from difficult realities.
Exactly. And there's also a subtle risk, I think. The line between setting healthy boundaries, which this encourages, and slipping into emotional disengagement or avoidance, it can be fine.
So you could potentially use let them to justify not dealing with things you should deal with.
Potentially, yeah. If you're not careful or self-aware, it could reinforce avoidant tendencies under the banner of empowerment.
That makes sense. And you mentioned earlier, the book covers a lot of scenarios quickly. Does that mean it sometimes lacks depth for really complex issues?
I think that's fair to say. It offers great breadth, hitting many common pain points. But for really tangled situations like long-term commitments, complex family systems, caregiving roles, the let them mantra might feel a bit too broad stroke. It doesn't always capture the necessary nuance.
So the takeaway for listeners is apply it wisely.
Absolutely. It's crucial for you to think critically. Use the framework where it empowers you, but recognize its limits. Understand when letting them is liberating, and when actually a more engaged, assertive, or even confrontational response is needed. It requires discernment.
Okay, so placing this in the wider world of self-help books, where does it fit? It definitely makes me think of a few others, like Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck. There's a similar kind of bluntness, maybe, an anti-people-pleasing vibe.
Yeah, definitely echoes of that irreverence. And you could also connect it to something like Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend.
Right. Though that one feels maybe more clinical or psychological in its approach.
It is, yeah. Boundaries provides a much deeper dive into the psychology of saying no and setting limits. Let them is maybe more behavioral, more mantra-focused.
And what about, say, Glennon Doyle's Untamed? There seems to be a shared thread there, too, especially maybe for women, about not shrinking yourself for others.
Absolutely. That theme of reclaiming your own truth and not performing for external approval is definitely present in both.
So with these other great resources out there, what makes the let them theory stand out? What's behind its unique viral spark?
I think what really sets it apart is how it kind of strips away some of the layers you might find elsewhere. It doesn't lean heavily on, say, specific therapeutic models or religious frameworks or even explicitly feminist theory, although you can see influences.
Those were distilled.
Exactly. It boils the core message down to this incredibly simple, memorable, instantly graspable idea: let them. That sheer directness, that accessibility is probably a huge factor in why it spread so fast online.
So it offers you, the listener, a very direct, maybe less complex entry point into these ideas compared to some other works.
I think that's right. It's compelling in its simplicity.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, What's our final take for listeners wondering if this book, this theory, is for them?
Well, our verdict is that the let them theory is definitely more than just a flash in the pan. It feels like it's really holding up a mirror to a modern struggle that desperate need many feel to just stop. Stop overfunctioning for everyone else.
Yeah, to stop managing everyone else's feelings and expectations.
Right, and start actually showing up for yourself, preserving your own peace.
And even though it's a quick read, it sounds like the kind of idea that can really stick with you.
I think so. It can subtly shift how you react in daily situations, how you navigate relationships, how you handle criticism or exclusion. The impact can be quite lasting.
So who would you say it's especially good for?
Definitely people pleasers, overthinkers for sure. Anyone feeling burned out from trying to meet endless expectations, whether at work or home. Basically, anyone who feels ready to trade that constant low-level anxiety for a bit more calm.
By doing something that feels maybe scary but necessary, letting go.
Precisely. Which leads us to a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on.
Okay.
In a world that constantly screams at us to do more, be more, engage more, what's one brave act of letting go, of letting them, that might genuinely radically change your